Megan, I think that's a nice segue to talk about the timeless brand lessons we learned from your dad, Ted
Yes.
Matthews. And he had a list that he kept, that he built out, of maxims. And try as I might, I don't have a list like that. I mean, I don't have a list like that. He's got a list like that.
Good to hear.
And, to this day, when if I ever ponder a point, a concept that's in my head, a rule, let's say, I ask myself, did I come up with that myself, or did I learn that from Ted? Because there's a lot, and it's just become so integrated into my circuitry that there's a lot of your dad's ideas circulating every day in everything that I do. So why don't you kick us off with three of the timeless brand lessons that you've learned that have stuck with you the most?
Sounds good. And I'm curious to see if we have any of the
Mm-hmm.
same, which we very well might. So my first one is, and I say this all the time to clients because it applies across the business. It applies for communications departments, PR strategy, creative, consumer messaging is the moment you're sick of a message internally is the moment that your customers are just starting to remember
Uh-huh.
it. And it plays into that consistency piece and the fact that so many of us as internal employees and sort of stewards of brands get sick of the messaging because you're talking about it day in and day out. And so you think, oh, everyone else must be sick of it too. But the reality is people aren't and they are just getting comfortable with it. And I can't tell you how many times I use that and how many times clients then repeat it back to me and say, "Oh, Megan, I
Mm-hmm.
thought of you saying that, and I realized I can't change that message when I'm doing my next interview," or whatever it may be. So that's my first one.
Let me
Second
jump in
one,
there. Can I jump in there?
please,
And
please, please,
I'm
please.
that it's a really powerful one, and it's no offense to anyone, as your dad would say. Your clients aren't getting up every day thinking about you.
No.
Sorry. You're wrapped up in your marketing plan and your social media posts and your campaign. They're not getting up and thinking about it in the same way. So they're not getting bored of it. They're not getting tired like you are.
So the next one is, and this does play into that as well, is the old friends, new friends. So he always said and continues to say that old friends are a brand's worst enemy. And though what that means is the people who've been there forever and are kind of, a part of the furniture at a brand. And I see this a lot with sort of family businesses that I am working with where often the more senior individual really is struggling with change, won't evolve the brand, says, well, it's worked this way forever. And of course, there's things you got to keep consistent, but there's also things you have to evolve to stay with the times and stay relevant. And those old friends, and they're not always old as in age, but just people who've been around a long time struggle with change. And then he would say the next biggest enemy, or maybe even the only greater enemy than the old friend is the new friend. And that's, the agency partner who wants to win an award, the new leader who's coming in and trying to prove themselves because people aren't sure they're the right leader. And they just want to change everything to show that they have the better ideas. And I think we see this the most with sort of ad agencies and creative agencies coming in and saying, we got to get rid of that and start a whole new creative platform. And really a lot of it is driven by awards because it's very hard to take an existing idea and make it fresh again.
Mm-hmm.
And yet customers are just learning that that's part of the brand. And then a new friend comes in and changes all of it. So that one is timeless too.
It is incredible to me that a problem that your dad identified 20 years ago plus is still very much a problem. That is ad agencies coming in, new executives coming in and wanting to change the message. You may know this. The It's unusual that the title of the book has such a word like ain't in it, because your dad, obviously a very articulate person and very sophisticated person, and he deliberately wanted to use the word ain't because he considered it a, as he put it, finger in the eye to the ad agencies. Somehow it was his way of saying, I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to follow your rules. You would never put ink in the title of a book, but I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. And he still to this day believes that awards programs are and actually how he says it today is that, the term award winning is so overused by brands, organizations, people. What does it even mean anymore? Does it mean anything to people? Because, sometimes when you dive into these awards, it's an awards program that was started by that actual company and they're award winning and because it's their own
Yeah.
awards program. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so you're right. He's always had a thing, against awards. So, and the ad agencies kind of using that as a motivator. Um, my third one is actually not one from him, but it's certainly born from all of the things I've learned from him, and that is that your employees are really your best brand ambassadors. And you know what? In hindsight, I'm probably doing what you said at the beginning of this chat, which is actually, is that his or did I come up? I don't
Hmm.
know. I don't know whose it is, but I say it all the time, which is if you're not treating your employees like brand ambassadors, you're missing a huge trick. And you see it again and again where employees might be a bit disgruntled and yet they're investing money in creating brand ambassadors, especially in the digital space, whether it's social media influencers, etc. And they're pouring money into these people. And yet employees have social media profiles. They might have a micro following, but they've still got a following, a community of people who have the opportunity to love that brand as well. And I think companies really overlook fostering their own people as brand ambassadors. And how can you make sure they love the brand as much as you do as the leader or as the founder? And so I really believe that the first strategy for brand ambassadors should be an internal one. And consistently focused on internal brand ambassadors. So those are my three.
Massive opportunity there. And I'm interested as the PR expert, what you think about because it must be the risk that scares brands from getting their own people to be brand ambassadors.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair, but I also think it's just as much risk to not make them a brand ambassador because if you don't treat them well and
Hmm.
and
Right. Yeah.
give them the product to try and all of that, they'll turn to we see time and again examples of employees, younger employees turning to TikTok and basically outing their companies.
Wow. Yeah.
So, I actually think it's a bigger risk today to not do it.
Awesome. I
Yeah.
love it. Thank you, Megan.
Yeah, of course. So tell me, do we have any overlap?
I don't think so. In the three that I chose, there are they all exist in the same constellation, in the same universe, of course. But the first one for me is it's not one positioned exactly as one of his maxims, but it is that a brand is what people think of you.
Mm.
It is the most meaningful definition, in my opinion, in the branding universe. And your dad coined that. And it's interesting how I've abided by all of the maxims quite religiously for the last 20 years. And this one, perhaps the most important of all, a brand is what people think of you, I've altered in my own thinking a little bit. And it came to be
Mm.
because I remember saying to someone, talking about how much I believe in people's right to do what they want, to determine their own future and carve their own path. And she said, well, for someone who believes that, you also believe that a brand is what people think of you. You're giving other people all the power. Really? Is that what we're doing? Positioning ourselves purely for
Based on
others?
opinion. Mm.
And that really got me thinking. And so since that time, it took me a few days to think about that. And since that time, I've modified it a little bit to mean to me that a brand is what people think of you, and you are the most, including you. You are the most important person among those people. A brand is what you think of yourself. And I think that I believe that aligns. I've actually never had a conversation with your dad about it, but I believe that it aligns with that. It's a fair adaptation or expansion of the rule, because it's not just about what other people think. The most important person is you. At the end of the day, it's what you think of your brand that matters the most. What's your reaction to that?
I think that's true of personal brands. I'm not sure of corporate or kind of consumer brands,
Hmm.
because I think we then see leaders leading by opinion versus actual opinion of customers and people that are buying the product. So, I don't know, and I think we should ask my dad and report
Mm-hmm.
back. I suspect he'll push back against it. I do. I do.
Fascinating. You see, I tie it to the fact that a brand is your culture. And that's the next one on
Mhm.
my list. The only synonym for brand is culture, because your culture is your accumulated systems of belief about yourself. It's what you think
Yes.
of. Your culture is what you think of you. So that's really what I'm saying. I'm not saying act on a whim and just get up in the morning and, I think I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to do that because the brand's all about me. It, it, I'm really referring to the fact, the whole cultural aspect. And I do acknowledge that personal brands and corporate brands are different. I'm more in the
Yep.
personal branding space. You're more in the
Yep.
corporate branding space. Does
Yep.
the culture argument hold any water with you?
Yeah, it does. I think when you say it like that, it does because you're right, the internal culture is everything. And so that absolutely shapes the external brand and ultimately what people think of you. So yes, in that context, I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Good.
Yeah,
All
it's a
right.
good one.
I'm treading water here. That's good. So the segueing into that next one, then the only synonym for brand is culture, and very little appreciated that idea. I think that most individuals and most corporate brands still don't get that. It's funny because the example of second cup was a negative example that I used way back in 2006, 2007, and helping your dad with the book, and how they never understood what a brand was. They've never understood that brand is culture. They are the company that thinks, they're the brand that thinks that a brand is a logo. There's no better example.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great example. I think they're closed, but I
Are
might be
they?
wrong.
You see,
I don't know. I
okay,
think
so
your day's come. I don't
it's like
know.
this thing where is this celebrity alive or dead? We
Yeah, I
literally don't know
don't
because
know.
they've become that irrelevant. So
Yeah,
that we shouldn't be feel badly that, oh, we don't know. No, that's the whole point. We don't
you're right.
actually know if they're alive or not.
We'll fact check that too and report back. Yeah.
The third one is that consistency is the number one rule of branding. So the logic goes that a brand is what people think of you, and if you keep changing the message all the time, or you're just inconsistent in your delivery of it, whether it's the visual brand, whether it's the verbal brand, whether it's the experiential brand, you introduce dissonance into people's minds, and that opens up brain space for other brands to come over and eat your lunch. So it's a really tough one to enforce. And the realm in which I confront that all the time is in design. It's
Mhm.
really, it is tough to, across multiple platforms now, social media that wasn't there
Yeah.
20, 25 years ago, enforce the consistency of the visual brand, let alone the verbal piece and the cultural experiential piece.
Yeah. That I say that all the time to clients as well, and I say, "You're gonna get sick of me saying this, but that's the
Hmm.
point. Consistency is
Yes.
key." And, you're right, the design element, because there's so many different people touching brands now in different departments, especially the large brands, but it is truly the number one tool to building a brand. So that's a great
Hmm.
one to end with, and one I couldn't
Hmm.
agree more with. I agree with all of them. I use them all the time. So they are timeless.